Welcome back to the Sportsnaut interview. The divisional playoff round is the topic for today. We're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, a big game in the NFC coming up this weekend. And to do that, we bring in Mike Safford from Packers.com. Mike, thanks for being with us. And I'll tell you what, I look at this Packers team, and I want to start and talk back to some of the design of this squad. If you look at Mike Gutekunst, there, I got it. Gutekunst, got his name right. When he decided to, 2 years ago, he trades away Devontae Adams, arguably a future Hall of Famer. Then he lets Aaron and Rodgers go, another sure Hall of Famer. But he had a vision for this team, and he turns it over to Jordan Love, the first-year starter. Talk a little bit about sort of his focus on that vision and how it's panned out thus far for him.
Yeah, what he envisioned was at the time of making the transition to Jordan Love, that there would be a young offense around Love, and it would be a group of players, the receivers, the tight ends, who would grow together as a passing offense. And there were certainly a lot of bumps along the way early in the season. In October, this offense was struggling to get a first down in the first half of games, let alone being able to score very many points. But things really started to kick into a different gear in the second half of the season. Partly the struggles early on were not just the youth, but it wasn't that the entire offense was supposed to be young and new. Part of this was that the backfield of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, two veteran accomplished players. You were going to have a all-pro left tackle in David Bakhtiari with a Pro Bowl left guard in Elton Jenkins. Those two guys on the left side of your offensive line. Running back and that left side of the offensive line were supposed to be the anchors, the veteran anchors of an offense with all these other young guys around them. Well, Bakhtiari only played the first game of the season, and then he was out for the rest of the year. Elton Jenkins had some injuries early on, wasn't playing. Aaron Jones had some injuries early on as well, missed some games. So what was supposed to be the veteran anchors on the offense weren't out there. And so, the young guys were really struggling trying to get things going. But then as they gained experience, you get Aaron Jones back in the lineup. The young offensive lineman, Rasheed Walker, a 7th-round pick from last year, steps in at left tackle. He gets some games under his belt and starts to settle in. So it all took until it wasn't until like November. Really the Thanksgiving game with Detroit was really where this team kind of started to turn the corner in terms of chalking up some victories and playing some really impressive football. And there was a little bit of a hiccup there a couple weeks in December. They didn't play well defensively against Tampa Bay, didn't play well on either side of the ball against the Giants in that Monday night game. But other than those two, the back half of the season, this Packers team has been pretty darn tough.
It has been, and it's been very impressive to watch. And I look at, the NFL is a quarterbacks league. Of course, wins are a team stat, not a quarterback stat. But nonetheless, having that signal caller who can lead your team on the field offensively is so vital. So you talked about Jordan Love struggling the first half of the season, but then the second half, it just seemed to, it's like I'm a father, watching my child, suddenly something just clicks, right? And you saw Jordan Love, and I know it's not that easy. He worked hard at it, and Matt Lafleur helped along with that as well. But talk about his maturation. Talk about the second half of the season and sort of what was that turning point for Jordan Love where he found the confidence, he found the ability to go out there and lead the Packers offensively like he's been able to do.
Yeah, it's been a combination of a lot of things. As I said, not just the young guys around him gaining experience, but you saw the young receivers start to make some contested catches. They didn't necessarily have to be wide open in order to make a play. Those types of catches against tight coverage, they can really help out a quarterback and help out an offense and get things going. Those weren't being made earlier in the season. They have been made later on. And then Love himself, you can just see his command at the line of scrimmage, the way he makes some play adjustments, adjust the protection here, move somebody around here or there, not going totally off script as far as the offense is concerned, but really surveying the defense, getting a sense of what position the offense needs to be in, and that command at the line of scrimmage has really has really grown over the course of the year, and for me, the turning point, and Matt Lafleur has mentioned this a few times, it was actually in a loss when the Packers lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers at Pittsburgh. They fell to 3-6 with that loss. And that game ended like a lot of other losses had ended, where the Packers had a chance on offense to get the winning score late in the game in the fourth quarter, and Love ended up throwing an interception. So that part was sort of like rinse and repeat. But the way the rest of that game in Pittsburgh had gone, the offense was competitive right from the get-go. It didn't take until the second half to get going. They were making explosive plays. They were getting big gains running and passing, 20 yards here, 30 yards there. They were taking some, chunks of the field and looking like a dangerous, explosive offense in that game. So even though they lost to the Steelers and fell to 3-6, that was really the game that Matt Lafleur felt, okay, if this team stays on this track, if the offense stays on this track, there are going to be some good things ahead, and that really is what happened. As I said, other than speaking strictly offensively, other than that Monday night game against the Giants, which really was kind of a dud performance for the Packers on offense, that's really the only time the offense hasn't shown up and proven to be a pretty dangerous element here over the last couple of months.
Yeah, and as an outside observer, too, and we'll go, of course, the big win against the Cowboys last week on the road. I look at Coach Matt Lafleur, and I look at the offense, and it seems as though as Jordan Love has gained that confidence, obviously gained some consistency and done so well, it appears Coach Lafleur also opening up that offense, trusting his quarterback and his offense, his young receivers, like you said, who are doing so much better of a job than they were at the beginning of the season. It seems like that playbook is open now. There's a lot more trust there. Talk about how it's changed his approach offensively to the Packers as they rolled into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. There were times this season where Matt Lafleur kind of wanted to tell Jordan Love, hey, when you're back there in the pocket, trust what you read, trust what you see, and let it rip. And I think his advice to Jordan Love in terms of letting it rip, he also kind of had to tell himself in terms of the play calling, like to let it rip. Hey, when you're 3-6 after 9 games, you've got to start winning some games to make something of your season, or the rest of it's not really going to matter much. And so, again, as I said, the Pittsburgh game was where the Packers offense showed it could be dangerous, and I think that game proved to Matt Lafleur, okay, we can take some chances down the field. He felt as a play caller, I can try to push the envelope here. Really try to stretch the field, here and there, and make defenses play this offense differently, and it worked out that way, and it took a lot longer than everybody was hoping. Nobody wants to be 2-5 after 7 games, 3-6 after 9 games. Nobody wants to be in that position. The hope was that it would get there earlier, but once it got there, it's been pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, amazing stuff, and just the Dallas game. I think for folks who had not seen the Packers a lot towards the end of the season, watching that game, I think people were stunned because they weren't expecting it. Of course, Dallas so good at home, but we saw what happened there. Moving on to, obviously, Sunday's game against the 49ers. The Packers have struggled against receivers, running backs, pulling out as receivers and the ball going off to running backs. And you look at McCaffrey in San Francisco and what he's able to do as a pass catcher out of the backfield. I think the Packers ranked 27th there. What do they have to do, and what are they going to do you think, to maybe slow down? Because San Francisco has so many offensive weapons, but this Packers defense has shored up recently. But against those running backs, against a guy as dynamic as that, what do they have to do to maybe at least mute as much as they can Christian McCaffrey and some of those other players on the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, you said it. I really think it comes down to just the large number of weapons that the 49ers have that are all just, really elite level, high level players. And the way the 49ers scheme things, whether it's Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk, like they're trying to get these guys matched up, one-on-one in the open field, get them the ball in space, And really defensively for the Packers, it can't really be about focusing on one specific guy because the 49ers just have too many guys. It comes down to being able to make tackles in the open field. This 49ers offense makes you make the one-on-one tackle. They count on being able to break those tackles and turn 6 and 7 yard gains into explosive plays with a lot of yards after the catch, yards after contact, all of that kind of stuff. And that's when the 49ers really get rolling. If you're not tackling soundly in the open field against these guys, you're going to be in for a long day defensively. The Packers have played, after a lot of ups and downs this season, the Packers have played pretty well defensively the last 3 games. But this is an even bigger challenge, I think, than the Cowboys, because even though the Cowboys were the highest scoring offense in the league going into last week's wild card game, most of the discussion was about CeeDee Lamb, and then, yes, the Cowboys have some other weapons, but CeeDee Lamb's kind of up here, and then, Tony Pollard and Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson are good players, but, CeeDee Lamb was the guy. The 49ers, when you're talking about McCaffrey and Samuel and Kittle and Ayuk, like all these guys are up at that elite level, and that just creates a lot more problems and a lot bigger challenge, because it's hard to rally to the football and get a bunch of guys there to tackle. You're going to be one-on-one with these guys. You've got to make the tackle and get them to the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And if you look at the rest of this game, of course, Packers underdogs going on the road against the number 1 seed. But in addition to what we talked about there is making sure that you make tackles when you're one-on-one, what else does this Packers team need to do, Mike, to make sure that they have a chance to stay in this game and win this game?
Yeah, well, certainly offensively, you're looking for Jordan Love and company to keep things going, to keep things rolling, move the football steadily, finish drives in the red zone, get in the end zone, don't settle for field goals. They've been doing a pretty good job of that in recent weeks. Defensively, you've got to try to get that 49ers offense into some uncomfortable third down situations that gives you the opportunity to get after Brock Purdy. Purdy's been outstanding this year. I mean, his believe his passer rating for the season is like 113, and the second half of the season it's like 120, and that even includes the 4 interception game he had against Baltimore. He's at 120 passer rating for the second half of the year. So it's a tall task, but you have to get the 49ers in some third down situations that give you an opportunity to get after Purdy, to try to make him uncomfortable, and then capitalize on a mistake here or there. The Packers defense, 1 or 2 takeaways could be a huge factor in this game, as it was last week. The interception by Alexander set up a touchdown, the pick six. 2 of the Packers' first 4 touchdowns in that game were really as a result of the defense. If they can make a couple of plays like that, they'll be in this game all the way to the end.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I just think with a young team too, and I think we saw it with the Packers in Dallas, right? Get off to a quick start, and that confidence just grows, and you're like, okay, yeah, you're sitting across from the Cowboys, or now you're sitting across from the 49ers. Doesn't matter. We're playing with these guys. So I look for the Packers to really try to get out to a quick start there, and it'll get. What about the health of the team? I know Jair Alexander was banged up. How are we looking going into Sunday?
Yeah, that's the biggest injury I think everybody's watching is what's happening with Alexander. He really hasn't been practicing much this week. He didn't practice last week after initially injuring the ankle. Then he was able to get himself ready to play on Sunday afternoon in Dallas. He got the big interception early in the game, but then he re-injured the ankle later in the game, had to come out. So he's still been in, kind of that rehab mode this week and trying to get himself ready. And it could be another, game time decision on Saturday night as to whether or not he's good to go. So that's probably the biggest injury that folks are watching with the Packers. The other one is A.J. Dillon, the number 2 running back behind Aaron Jones. He's been out for multiple weeks now with a neck stinger. Looked like he was maybe going to take some practice reps today, which would be his first time back in practice in quite a while. But whether he'll be ready to go on Saturday night as that number 2 behind Jones still remains to be seen.
Going to be a good game Saturday night, definitely, as the NFC teams, the Packers and the 49ers, tangle for an opportunity to reach the NFC Championship game. Mike Spofford from Packers.com. Thanks so much for being with us here on Sportsnaut.
All right, you bet. Thanks for having me.